The stars looked different now. Captain Minho pressed his hand against the cold glass of the observation deck and tried to remember what the constellations used to look like from Earth. He couldn't. It had been too long. 60,000 years was more time than any human mind was meant to hold. Even one that had spent most of it frozen in cryogenic sleep dot behind him. The ship hummed with quiet activity. The eternal horizon stretched for miles in every direction, a massive cylinder of metal and hope that had carried 1 million sleeping humans across the galaxy. Most of them still slept in their pods, waiting for the day they would wake to a new home. That day was supposed to have come 50,000 years ago. Minho turned away from the window as the door slid open. Commander Hana walked in quickly, her face tight with something that looked like excitement or fear. Maybe both. She had been awake for 3 months now, monitoring the ship's systems, while the rest of the skeleton crew rotated through their sleep cycles. Minho had only been awake for 2 weeks. "Captain, you need to see this," she said without greeting. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were bright. The long-range sensors picked up something. Transmissions. Human transmissions. Minho felt his heart skip. From one of the other Ark ships? No, sir. Hana pulled up a holographic display between them. Streams of data flowed through the air, forming patterns and graphs. These signals are coming from Earth's star system, from Earth itself. The words didn't make sense. Earth was gone. Earth had died 60,000 years ago when the Vrol-Kathi Empire came with their world-breaking weapons and turned humanity's cradle into ash and dust. Minho had been there. He had watched from orbit as the continents cracked and the oceans boiled. He had watched as 12 Ark ships fled into the darkness while their homeworld burned behind them. "That's impossible," he said quietly. "I know, but the transmissions are definitely human. The language is evolved, changed, but the mathematical signatures match our databases. Someone is alive down there, Captain, and they're broadcasting on frequencies that only we would recognize." Minho stared at the data streams. His hands were shaking slightly. He made them stop. "How many people know about this?" "Just us. I wanted to confirm it 3 times before I told anyone." Hana looked at him. "What do we do?" "Wake the council. All of them. And start decrypting those transmissions. I want to know what they're saying." 2 hours later, Minho stood before the ship's council in the main conference room. Admiral Yuna sat at the head of the table, her gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. She had been a fleet admiral before Earth fell, one of the youngest in history. Now she commanded the military forces of the Eternal Horizon, though there had been no enemy to fight for 60 millennia. Next to her sat Dr. Sumin, the chief scientist. She was younger, born on the ship during one of the brief periods when they had tried to establish a new generation. That experiment had ended when they realized the ship's resources couldn't support a growing population. No children had been born on the Eternal Horizon for 40,000 years. Lieutenant Yuan, the tactical officer, stood by the wall. She was fidgeting with a data pad, her fingers moving nervously over the controls. Ji-Wan had volunteered to wake early from the last sleep cycle because she couldn't stand the dreams anymore. The frozen sleep brought nightmares sometimes. Memories of Earth's last days. Hana displayed the sensor data for everyone to see. The room was silent as they read through the information. Finally, Admiral Yuna spoke. "This changes everything," she said. Her voice was calm, but Minho could hear the tension underneath. "If Earth survived, if humans survived, then we need to make contact. We need to go home." "It could be a trap," Ji-Wan said. She was looking at the data with suspicious eyes. "The Vrol-Kathi are clever. They could have learned to fake our signals. They could be waiting for any Ark ships that return." Dr. Sumin shook her head. "The mathematical patterns are too complex. They contain references to historical events that happened before we left Earth. Events the Vraalkeith wouldn't know about. This is real. Minho brought up another display. There's more. I had Hana scan for Vraalkeith signatures in the system. There are none. No ships, no stations, nothing. But there are human signatures everywhere. Orbital platforms, lunar bases, installations on Mars. Whatever happened after we left, humanity didn't just survive. They rebuilt. The room was quiet again. Minho could see each of them processing the information, trying to understand what it meant. They had spent 60,000 years running, hiding, drifting through empty space. The idea that Earth still existed, that humanity still existed, seemed too good to be true. Admiral Eunice stood up. We should also consider the Vraalkeith Empire. They didn't just disappear. I want a full scan of surrounding systems. I want to know where they are and what they're doing. Over the next few days, the crew worked without stopping. Engineers pulled data from the ship's ancient archives. Scientists analyzed the transmissions from Earth. Military officers studied star charts and plotted courses. And slowly, a picture began to form. The Vraalkeith Empire had grown. It now controlled a third of the galaxy, spreading across thousands of star systems. Their territory was vast, their military power enormous. They had become the dominant force in this region of space, unchallenged and unopposed, but they seemed to have forgotten about Earth. The human homeworld sat in a quiet corner of their territory, unremarkable and ignored. The Vraalkeith had struck once, 60,000 years ago, and then moved on to other conquests. They never looked back. Minho read through the reports in his quarters late at night. The ship's lights were dimmed to simulate evening, though there was no real day or night in the void. He thought about the 1,000,000 people sleeping in their pods throughout the ship. They had trusted the crew to find them a new home, a safe place where humanity could start again. But maybe they didn't need a new home. Maybe home had been waiting for them all along. The door chimed. Hana came in without waiting for permission. She looked tired but excited. We finished decrypting the main transmission, she said. You need to hear this. She played the audio. The voice that came through the speakers was human, speaking a language that was almost recognizable. The words were strange, evolved, but Minho could understand enough. To any human vessels in the dark, the voice said, This is Earth. We survived. We endured. We rebuilt. If you can hear this message, if you're still out there among the stars, know that your homeworld remembers you. Know that we're waiting. Come home. Minho listened to the message 3 times. Each time, he felt something tight and painful in his chest. Hope, maybe? Or grief for all the years lost. What are your orders, Captain? Hana asked. Minho looked at her, then at the star charts displayed on his wall. Earth was so far away. It would take months to reach it, even with their faster-than-light drives. But they had already traveled for 60,000 years. What were a few more months? Set course for Earth, he said, and send out encrypted signals on all the old frequencies. If any other Ark ships are out there, they need to know. They need to know we're going home. Hana smiled. It was the first real smile Minho had seen from her in months. Yes, sir. As she left to carry out the orders, Minho turned back to the window. The stars were still unfamiliar, still strange. But somewhere out there, in a direction that was starting to feel like home, Earth was waiting. Dot and humanity, scattered across the galaxy for 60,000 years, was finally going to return. The eternal horizon moved through space at speeds that would have seemed impossible to the humans who first built it. Technology had improved over 60,000 years, even on a ship full of sleeping people. The engineers who woke for their rotation cycles had kept working, kept improving, kept pushing the boundaries of what their ship could do. Now they could cross vast distances in weeks instead of centuries. But Mingho knew they couldn't face the Vral Kith Empire alone. If Earth had survived and rebuilt, that was good. But one planet and one Ark ship weren't enough. They needed the others. They needed to find the rest of humanity's scattered fleet. Commander, Hana worked at the communications station for 16 hours every day. She sent out encrypted signals using frequencies and codes that only the Ark ships would recognize. The messages were simple. They said, "We are here. Earth calls us home. Answer if you can hear this." For 3 weeks, there was only silence. Then, on the 23rd day of their journey toward Earth, an answer came. The signal was weak at first, breaking up across the vast distance of space. But it was definitely human, and it was definitely using the old codes. Hana ran to find Minho in his quarters. He was studying reports about the Vral Kith Empire, trying to understand what humanity would be facing. "Captain, we got a response," she said, breathing hard from running. "It's the new dawn. They're alive." The communications link took an hour to establish properly. When the image finally appeared on the screen, Minho saw a man about his own age, with hard eyes and gray hair cut military short. Captain Tai Yang looked like someone who had spent 60,000 years preparing for war. "Captain Minho," Tai Yang said. His voice came through with a slight delay. "We received your transmission. We also detected the signals from Earth. We've been monitoring them for 2 years." 2 years? Minho leaned forward. "Why didn't you make contact?" "Because we were cautious. Because we've survived this long by being careful." Tai Yang's face was grim. "We lost half our population 30,000 years ago to a system failure. We learned not to trust anything, even hope." Minho understood. Every Ark ship had its own story of survival, its own tragedies. "Where have you been hiding?" "In a nebula near the Galactic Rim." "We've been building, Captain. We didn't just survive. We prepared." Tai Yang gestured off-screen. "We have 17 warships now. Not as big as your Ark ship, but fast and armed. We've been waiting for a reason to use them." "How many people?" 800,000 still in cryo. 20,000 awake and trained for combat." Tai Yang smiled, but it wasn't a friendly expression. "When we heard Earth's signal, when we learned that humanity survived, we knew. This is what we've been waiting for. We're coming with you." Over the next month, more responses came. The Phoenix Rising answered next, commanded by Admiral Nari. Her ship had never stopped moving in 60,000 years. They had become nomads, traveling from system to system, establishing hidden supply bases and outposts. Her people numbered 1 million, spread across 30 different locations. "We never trusted one ship to hold all our people," Nari explained over the communication link. Her hair was long and braided with metal rings. "We split our population into smaller groups. Safer that way. But now we're calling them all back. Every human under my command is coming home." Then came the Starbourn, the Forever Watch, and 2 others. Each had their own story. Each had found their own way to survive. Some had stayed hidden like the New Dawn. Others had traveled like the Phoenix Rising. One ship, the Last Light, had survived by landing on a lifeless world and building underground cities. They had only recently returned to space, but 5 Ark ships never answered. 5 ships that had fled Earth 60,000 years ago were gone forever. Lost to equipment failures, maybe, or destroyed by asteroids. Or perhaps they had just drifted too far, their signals too weak to reach anyone. Minho felt the weight of those lost millions like a stone in his chest. Still, 7 Ark ships meant 7 million humans. It was more than he had dared to hope for. The ships began to converge on a meeting point that Admiral Yuna had chosen, an empty region of space between 2 nebulas. It took 6 weeks for everyone to arrive. When Minho finally saw all 7 Ark ships together through the observation deck, he had to sit down. It was too much. After 60,000 years of isolation, humanity's scattered fleet was together again. The council meeting included representatives from all 7 ships. They met via holographic link, their images projected into a virtual conference room. Minho looked around at faces both familiar and strange. These were his people. These were the descendants and survivors of Earth's last desperate gamble. Admiral Nari spoke first. "We all know why we're here. Earth survived. Humanity survived. But we also know the Vraalkith Empire has grown into something enormous. The question is, what do we do about it?" Captain Taiyang pulled up a tactical display. "I've been studying the Empire for decades. They're powerful, yes, but they're also complacent. They haven't faced a real challenge in thousands of years. They've grown soft." "Soft doesn't mean weak," said Commander Do-Yun from the Last Light. He was an engineer, not a soldier, but he understood systems and structures. "They have billions of soldiers, millions of ships. We have 7 million people and maybe 100 functional warships between all our fleets." Dr. Hai Jin from the New Dawn leaned forward. She was a biologist who had spent her career improving humanity's physical capabilities. "Numbers aren't everything. We've had 60,000 years to improve, to adapt. Our soldiers are faster, stronger, more resilient than the humans who left. Earth, we've made biological enhancements that give us advantages the Vraalkith don't expect. And our technology has advanced in ways the Empire can't imagine," added Engineer Junho from the Phoenix Rising. He was a weapons specialist. "We've developed energy weapons that can pierce their shields. We've created drives that make their ships look slow. Every Ark ship brought different innovations. Together, we have tools they've never seen." Minho listened to them all talk. Plans were proposed and rejected. Strategies were debated. Hours passed. Finally, Lieutenant Sora from the Eternal Horizon spoke up. She was the youngest officer on any command staff, barely 30 years old, born on the ship during a brief wake cycle. "We're thinking about this wrong," she said. Everyone turned to look at her. "We're not trying to conquer the Empire. We're not trying to occupy their territory. We just want one thing, justice. We want them to know that what they did to Earth was wrong. We want them to remember that humanity doesn't forgive." "What are you suggesting?" Admiral Yuna asked. ORA brought up a star chart. "We don't fight their whole empire. We fight smart. We hit them where it hurts. We make them afraid. And then we unite with Earth and show them that humanity is stronger now than we were 60,000 years ago." The room was quiet. Then Captain Taiyang started to smile. It was a cold smile, the smile of someone who had been waiting a very long time for revenge. "I like it," he said. Over the next week, the combined fleet began to coordinate. Ships that had been alone for millennia now worked together. Engineers shared their innovations. Military officers combined their tactics. Scientists pooled their knowledge. Minho walked through the Eternal Horizon and saw his crew working with new energy, new purpose. They weren't refugees anymore. They weren't lost wanderers. They were humanity's answer to an old crime, returning after 60,000 years to settle the debt. Commander Hana found him in the observation deck again. Outside, the other 6 Ark ships floated in formation, their lights bright against the darkness. "All ships report ready," she said. "We can begin the journey to Earth whenever you give the order." Minho nodded. He thought about the people sleeping in the cryopods. Soon they would wake up. Soon they would learn that Earth still lived. Soon they would be part of something larger than survival. "Tell all ships to prepare for departure," he said. We're going home. And when we get there, we're going to make sure the Vralkith Empire remembers what happens when you try to kill humanity. Hannah smiled. They're going to regret ever hearing our name. The 7 Ark ships turned as one, their drives lighting up the darkness. Together, they began the final journey home. The combined fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. 7 massive Ark ships materialized in the darkness, their stealth fields active, their sensors reaching out carefully to scan for threats. Captain Minho stood on the bridge of the eternal horizon, with his hands gripped tight on the railing. His heart was beating too fast. Somewhere ahead, beyond the outer planets and the asteroid belt, was Earth, his Earth, the planet he had left 60,000 years ago as it burned. Sensor sweep complete, Lieutenant Jiwan reported. Her voice was steady, but Minho could hear the emotion underneath. No Vralkith signatures detected in the system. No hostile vessels at all. And Earth? Minho asked. Jiwan was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice cracked slightly. Captain, Earth is green. The planet is alive. I'm reading oceans, forests, cities. There are orbital stations, lunar bases, installations throughout the system. This isn't a dead world. This is home. Commander Hannah pulled up a visual feed on the main screen. Minho stared at the image and felt something break open inside his chest. Earth floated there in space, blue and white and green, more beautiful than anything he remembered. Clouds swirled over oceans that shouldn't exist. Continents showed vegetation that should have been ash. It was impossible. It was real. How? Dr. Sumin whispered. She had come to the bridge to see this moment. How did they survive? Before anyone could answer, the communication system activated. A voice came through the speakers, speaking that evolved version of human language that they had heard in the transmissions. But now, having studied it for months, the translators worked perfectly. Unidentified vessels, this is Earth Defense Command. We've been tracking your approach. Please identify yourselves. Minho activated the communication link. His voice came out rough. Earth Defense Command, this is Captain Minho of the Ark ship Eternal Horizon. We left Earth 60,000 years ago. We're coming home. There was a long pause. Then the voice came back, and Minho could hear the emotion in it now. Captain Minho, this is General Minji of Earth Defense Command. Welcome home. We've been waiting for you. The fleet approached Earth slowly over the next 2 days. They were met by Earth ships, sleek vessels that moved with a grace the Ark ships couldn't match. The Earth ships guided them toward orbital positions, and all the while, communications flowed back and forth. Questions and answers. Stories of survival. Tears and laughter across the void. Minho learned that Earth's government was now led by a High Council. The current chancellor was a man named Suho, a career diplomat who had spent his life preparing for this day. He invited the Ark ship commanders to come to Earth's surface for a formal meeting. The shuttle ride down was the longest trip of Minho's life. He sat with Admiral Yuna, Captain Taiyang, and Admiral Nari. None of them spoke. They just watched through the windows as Earth grew larger, as clouds passed by, as the blue of the oceans filled their vision. They landed in a city that looked both familiar and alien. The architecture was human, but evolved. Buildings rose in spirals and curves. Gardens covered rooftops. Streams of water ran through the streets. It was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. Chancellor Suho met them personally. He was a tall man with kind eyes and gray hair. When he shook Minho's hand, his grip was firm and warm. 60,000 years, Suho said quietly. We never stopped believing you would come back. We never stopped hoping Earth survived, Minho replied. They walked through the city toward the government complex. people lined the streets to watch them pass. Humans who had never left Earth, staring at humans who had never known it. Children waved. Adults cried. Minho saw faces of every age and color, a thriving population that shouldn't exist out in the High Council chambers. They sat around a large table made of wood from Earth's forests. General Minji was there, a stern woman with sharp eyes. Science Director Gina sat next to her, young and eager. Other council members filled the remaining seats. "You want to know how we survived," Chancellor Suho said. It wasn't a question. "The story is longer than we have time for, but here's the simple version. When the Vraalkith attacked, they hit us hard. Continents broke. Oceans boiled. Billions died in the first hours. But not everyone. Not all of us. General Minji took over. Millions of people survived in deep bunkers, in underground cities, in sealed habitats on the ocean floor. When the Vraalkith finished their attack, they scanned the planet and decided we were extinct. They left. They moved on to other conquests and forgot about us. But we were still here," Science Director Gina said. Her eyes were bright with pride. "We endured centuries of nuclear winter. We lived underground for thousands of years. And slowly, carefully, we rebuilt. First the bunkers, then small surface settlements, then cities, then civilization. That must have taken incredible resources," Dr. Semin said. "Incredible coordination." Chancellor Suho nodded. "It did. But we had something the Vraalkith didn't count on. We had purpose. We had anger. We remembered what they did to us, and we swore we would never be helpless again." Admiral Yuna leaned forward. "You didn't just rebuild. You prepared for war." "Yes." General Minji's face was hard. "We sent out agents over thousands of years. Humans who infiltrated the Empire, who posed as citizens, who gathered information. We learned everything about them. Their weaknesses, their technology, their culture. And we developed weapons they've never imagined." Science Director Gina activated a holographic display. It showed a weapon that made Minho's blood run cold. "Singularity bonds," she explained. "Devices that can create temporary black holes. We can collapse space-time itself. Each bomb can devastate everything within like minutes. We have hundreds of them." Captain Taiyang whistled low. "That's enough firepower to destroy their entire empire." "We don't want to destroy them," Chancellor Suho said firmly. "We want justice. We want them to know they were wrong. We want them to fear us enough that they never try this again with any species." Over the next week, the Ark ship populations began to wake from cryosleep. 1 million people from each ship, emerging into a universe that had changed beyond recognition. They came down to Earth's surface in waves. And Minho watched as people who had been born on Earth 60,000 years ago knelt down and touched the soil with trembling hands. The military forces from all 7 Ark ships combined with Earth's defense forces. Admiral Yuna worked with General Minji to coordinate training. They had numbers now. 7 million people from the Ark ships. 5 million trained soldiers from Earth. 12 million humans ready to face an empire. But the Vraalkith Empire had billions. Commander Hana approached Minho one evening as he stood on a balcony overlooking the city. The sun was setting, painting the sky in colors he had forgotten existed. "The council is meeting tomorrow to decide on strategy," she said. "They want to know if we're really going to do this. If we're really going to fight." Minho watched the sunset. He thought about the million people from his ship who were now walking on Earth's soil for the first time in their lives. He thought about the 5 Ark ships that never made it home. He thought about the billions who died when the Vraalkith attacked. "Yes," he said, "we're going to fight. Not for conquest, Not for revenge, exactly, but for something more important. What's that? To prove that humanity can't be killed. That we survive. That we come back stronger. He looked at her. The Vraalkith thought they destroyed us. Instead, they created something they should fear. The next day, the combined war council met. Representatives from all 7 Ark ships sat with Earth's High Council. Maps of the galaxy covered the walls. Fleet dispositions were analyzed. Supply lines were calculated. Captain Tai Yang proposed attacking border worlds first, to draw out the Empire's forces gradually. Admiral Nari suggested a campaign of raids, hit-and-run attacks to demoralize them. Other strategies were debated for hours. And Chancellor Suho stood up. The room went quiet. "We're thinking too small," he said. "The Vraalkith Empire has ruled this region of the galaxy for 30,000 years. They're comfortable. They're arrogant. They think they're untouchable. We need to shatter that belief in one decisive moment." "What do you suggest?" Admiral Yuna asked. "We strike at their throne world, Kefval Prime, the heart of their empire. We hit them there, and we make them understand that nowhere is safe. That humanity remembers." The room erupted in arguments. It was too risky, some said. The throne world was too well defended. They would lose everything in the attempt. But Minho stood up, and the room quieted. "Chancellor Suho is right. We don't need to conquer the Empire. We just need to make them afraid. And nothing will scare them more than realizing we can reach their most protected world." General Ninji smiled grimly. "Then we have a plan. We prepare the fleet. We gather our forces. And we show the Vraalkith Empire what 60,000 years of human rage looks like." The attack didn't begin with warships or weapons. It began with information. On 1,000 worlds across the Vraalkith Empire, at exactly the same moment, every communication system suddenly broadcast the same message. It appeared on government channels, on entertainment networks, on military frequencies. Everywhere at once, impossible to stop or block. The message showed the face of Chancellor Suho, speaking calmly from Earth. Behind him stood representatives from all 7 Ark ships and Earth's High Council. When he spoke, his words were translated into every language the Empire used. 60,000 years ago, you tried to kill us. You attacked Earth. You murdered billions of humans. You thought you had destroyed us completely. You were wrong. Today, we return. Remember this moment. Remember that humanity never forgets." The message played 3 times, then ended. Across the Empire, billions of Vraalkith citizens stared at their screens in confusion and shock. Most of them had never heard of Earth. Humanity was just an old footnote in their history, a species their ancestors had eliminated ages ago. But in the Empire's military command centers, the message caused panic. Admiral Hakoth, the supreme commander of the Vraalkith military forces, watched the message from his flagship with growing anger. He was an old warrior, his scaled skin marked with battle scars from dozens of campaigns. He had led the Empire's fleets for 300 years, crushing rebellions and conquering new worlds. He had never lost a battle. How did they broadcast on our secure channels? He demanded. His communications officer was trembling. "We don't know, sir. The signal came from everywhere at once. Our security systems didn't even detect it until it was already playing. Find out where they are. Find this Earth, and prepare the 5th Fleet for deployment." Hakoth's eyes were cold. "If any humans survived, we'll finish what our ancestors started." The 5th Fleet was impressive. 300 warships, each one capable of destroying a small moon. They carried enough firepower to sterilize a dozen planets. The fleet had crushed the last major rebellion in the Empire just 50 years ago. They were the best the Vraalkith had to offer. They jumped to Earth's system. and emerged from faster-than-light travel, expecting to find a primitive world defended by a few obsolete ships. Instead, they found hell. The human fleet was waiting for them. Not hiding, not running, waiting. 3,000 ships hung in space around Earth, their weapons powered up, their shields active. The 7 massive arc ships formed the core, surrounded by Earth's sleeker vessels and the warships that Captain Tai Yang had built in the nebula. Admiral Yuna commanded the human forces from the bridge of the eternal horizon. General Minji stood beside her, coordinating with Earth's defense fleet. When the Vral Kith appeared, Yuna smiled. "All ships," she said calmly. "Engage." What happened next would be studied by military historians for generations. The human fleet didn't use conventional tactics. They had quantum fold drives that let them appear anywhere instantly. One moment a ship was in front of the enemy, the next it was behind them, weapons firing. The Vral Kith shields were designed to stop normal energy weapons. They were useless against humanity's directed energy arrays that could phase through matter. Lieutenant Jiwan led a squadron of fighters equipped with neural interface systems. The pilots could think, and their ships would respond, moving at speeds that seemed impossible. They tore through Vral Kith formations like knives through paper. The enemy tried to track them, tried to predict their movements, and failed completely. Engineer Do Yoon had modified the arc ship's gravity drives. Now they could create localized gravity wells that crushed enemy ships without firing a single shot. Vral Kith warships imploded under their own mass, their hulls crumpling like paper. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, the 5th Fleet was gone, destroyed completely. Not a single Vral Kith ship escaped to report what happened. Admiral Hakath received the news from a monitoring station that had watched the battle from a safe distance. He stared at the sensor logs in disbelief. 300 ships, gone, wiped out by an enemy that shouldn't exist. How? He whispered, but he didn't wait for answers. He sent the 9th Fleet, then the 3rd Fleet, then the entire Rimward battle group. 20 battle groups in total, thousands of ships, tens of thousands of soldiers. He sent them all to crush this impossible human resistance. Each fleet that attacked Earth met the same fate. The humans fought with a precision and fury that seemed inhuman. They knew every weakness in Vral Kith technology because Earth's agents had spent thousands of years learning it. They had weapons that the Empire had never imagined because they had 60,000 years to develop them in secret. But more than that, they fought with rage, with the memory of a burned world and billions of dead. Every human soldier remembered what the Vral Kith had done, even if they hadn't been alive to see it. The memory was passed down through generations, kept alive by stories and monuments and the simple fact of Earth's survival. After 6 months of continuous defeats, Admiral Hakath finally understood. This wasn't an enemy he could defeat through attrition. The humans were too advanced, too angry, too determined. Every battle cost him hundreds of ships, while the human fleet barely took losses. But Hakath was proud. The Empire was proud. They couldn't accept defeat from a species they had tried to exterminate. So the War Council met on Kethval Prime, the throne world at the heart of the Empire. Military leaders argued about strategy. Politicians demanded action. The Emperor himself, an ancient Vral Kith who had ruled for 2,000 years, insisted that humanity must be crushed. They decided to commit the Empire's core defensive fleets to one massive assault. Every ship that guarded the throne world and the inner territories would converge on Earth. They would overwhelm the humans through sheer numbers. No matter the cost. It was exactly what the humans wanted. While the Empire gathered its forces for the great assault, Captain Minho sat in a strategy meeting on Earth. Around him were the other Ark ship commanders, Earth's High Council, and the military leaders who had fought for 6 months. "They're committing everything to this attack," General Minji said. pointing at the holographic display. 10,000 warships, the largest fleet in their history. They'll reach Earth in 2 weeks. Can we stop them? Admiral Nari asked. Probably, Admiral Yuna said. But we'll take heavy losses. And even if we win, the Empire still exists. They'll rebuild and try again. Captain Tai Yang leaned back in his chair. We need to end this, permanently. That's when Dr. Sumin spoke up. She had been working with science. Director Gina for months, studying the Empire's defenses. What if we don't try to beat their fleet? What if we let them come to Earth while we go somewhere else? Where? Minho asked. Gina brought up a new display. Kethval Prime, their throne world. Right now, it's almost undefended. They pulled every ship to attack us. If we strike there while they're committed here, we can end this war in one move. The room went silent. Everyone understood what she was suggesting. It was insane. It was brilliant. It was exactly the kind of desperate gamble that humanity specialized in. We can't destroy their whole world, Chancellor Suho said firmly. That would make us no better than them. We don't need to destroy it, Science Director Gina replied. We just need to prove we could. We hit their main weapons foundry with a singularity bomb. We demonstrate our power. We force them to surrender. Minho stood up. Everyone looked at him. I lead the mission. The Eternal Horizon has the best stealth systems. We can slip through their defenses while they're distracted. You'll need ground forces, General Minji said, to plant the bomb and get out before it detonates. Commander Hana stepped forward. I'll lead the ground team. Over the next 2 weeks, the plan came together. The main human fleet would engage the Empire's massive assault force at Earth, drawing their attention. Meanwhile, the Eternal Horizon would use its quantum fold drive to jump directly to Kethval Prime. A team of 50 soldiers, led by Hana, would infiltrate the weapons foundry and plant a singularity bomb. The bomb would be set with a timer. 10 minutes to evacuate. Enough time to get out, but not enough for the Empire to defuse it. Lieutenant Sora helped plan the infiltration route. She was young but brilliant, and she understood the Empire's security systems better than anyone. The foundry is heavily guarded, but the guards are overconfident. They've never been attacked on their homeworld. We can use that. As the Empire's fleet approached Earth, Minho stood on the bridge of the Eternal Horizon and gave the order. The ship's quantum fold drive activated, tearing a hole in space-time. In an instant, they vanished from Earth's orbit and reappeared at the edge of Kethval Prime's system. The war was about to reach its final act. Above Earth, the largest space battle in galactic history began. 10,000 Vrolkith warships emerged from faster-than-light travel and immediately opened fire. The void lit up with weapons fire, brilliant streams of energy crossing millions of kilometers. The Empire had committed everything to this assault. They would crush humanity or die trying. Admiral Yuna stood on the command deck of the Phoenix Rising, coordinating the defense. She had 3,000 ships under her command, facing an enemy more than 3 times that size. The odds were terrible, but humanity had survived worse. All ships execute pattern Delta, she ordered. Make them work for every meter. The human fleet scattered and reformed in a pattern that seemed chaotic, but was precisely calculated. They used their quantum fold, drives to appear and disappear, never staying in one place long enough for the enemy to target effectively. Earth's orbital defense platforms added their fire to the mix. Massive energy beams that could cut through multiple ships at once. General Minji coordinated the ground-based defenses. Singularity mines had been placed throughout the solar system, invisible until activated. When Vrolkith ships passed too close, the mines would detonate, creating brief black holes that swallowed everything nearby. The battle was brutal. Ships on both sides exploded into brilliant flowers of light. Thousands died every minute. But The human forces fought with a discipline and fury that the Empire couldn't match. They had trained for this. They had prepared for 60,000 years. At the same time, light years away, the eternal horizon slipped through Kethval Prime's defenses like a ghost. Captain Mino sat in the command chair, watching the planet grow larger on the main screen. Kethval Prime was beautiful in its own way. 3 moons orbited a world of purple oceans and gray continents. Cities covered vast areas, their lights visible even from orbit. This was the heart of the Empire that had tried to kill humanity. "Stealth fields holding," reported the tactical officer. "No indication they've detected us." "Take us down to the coordinates Lieutenant Sora provided," Mingo ordered, "and prepare the assault shuttle." Commander Hana gathered her team in the shuttle bay. 50 soldiers, each one enhanced with the biological modifications that made them faster and stronger than normal humans. They wore armor that could deflect energy weapons and carried rifles that fired concentrated plasma bolts. Each soldier had trained for months specifically for this mission. "Remember the objective," Hana told them. "We get in, plant the bomb, and get out. We're not trying to kill everyone in the facility. We're sending a message." Lieutenant Sora checked the detonation device one more time. The Singularity bomb was small, about the size of a backpack. It didn't look dangerous, but when it activated, it would create a black hole that would consume everything within 10 miles for exactly 3 seconds. Then the Singularity would collapse, leaving behind a perfectly smooth crater of compressed matter. The shuttle descended through Kethval Prime's atmosphere. They landed outside the weapons foundry, a massive complex that produced the energy cannons the Empire used on its warships. Guards patrolled the perimeter, but they were relaxed. Why wouldn't they be? This was the throne world. No enemy had ever attacked here. Hana led her team forward. They moved silently, using the darkness and their stealth technology to avoid the patrols. When they encountered guards who couldn't be avoided, the fights were brief and brutal. The Vrolkith guards were 7 feet tall, heavily armored, and considered the finest warriors in the Empire. Against humanity's enhanced soldiers, they lasted less than a minute each time. The team reached the main foundry building. Sora hacked the security systems, her fingers moving faster than normal human reflexes should allow. The doors opened. They slipped inside. The foundry's interior was enormous, filled with massive machines that forged weapons from exotic materials. Vrolkith workers operated the equipment, unaware that enemies had infiltrated their facility. Hana's team moved through the shadows, avoiding detection. They reached the central power core, deep in the foundry's heart. This was where Sora would place the bomb. She activated the timer and set it carefully in place. 10 minutes, she whispered into her communication device. "Clock is running." That's when the alarms began to scream. Somehow they had been detected. Maybe a worker had seen something. Maybe the security systems were better than Sora thought. It didn't matter. Suddenly, the foundry was full of guards, all converging on their position. "Move!" Hana shouted. "Get to the extraction point." The team ran. Behind them, Vrolkith guards fired energy weapons, bolts of plasma lighting up the corridors. The human soldiers returned fire, their weapons punching through armor and shields. They moved as a unit, covering each other, never stopping. They fought their way through corridors and across open factory floors. The biological enhancements made them faster than the guards, but there were so many enemies. Every corner brought new soldiers. Every doorway became a kill zone. Lieutenant Sora took a plasma bolt to the shoulder. She stumbled but kept running, one arm hanging useless. A soldier named Kenji grabbed her and pulled her along, never slowing down. 9 minutes left. Above the foundry, the eternal horizon prepared for extraction. But Admiral Hakath, watching from his flagship in orbit, had finally realized what was happening. Humans were on Kethval Prime, on the throne world itself. Impossible. He diverted every ship he had in the system toward the Foundry's location. He would destroy the Eternal Horizon. He would kill every human on his world. He would prove that the Empire was still supreme. Hakoth's interceptor squadron screamed toward the Ark ship. Minho saw them coming on the sensors and made a decision. He could run, use the quantum fold drive to escape. But his people were still on the ground, fighting their way out. He couldn't leave them. All weapons, fire at will, Minho ordered. Keep those interceptors off us long enough for the ground team to evacuate. The Eternal Horizon wasn't a warship. It was an Ark, designed to carry sleeping people across the galaxy. But 60,000 years had given it weapons. The ship's defensive batteries opened up, streams of energy cutting through space. Interceptors exploded, but more kept coming. On the ground, Hana's team reached the extraction point. The shuttle was waiting, engines hot. They piled in, wounded and exhausted. Hana did a quick count. 47 soldiers. 3 didn't make it. 7 minutes left. The shuttle lifted off, Vraalkith ground forces firing at it from below. Energy bolts scorched its hull, but the shields held. It climbed toward orbit, toward the Eternal Horizon, toward safety. But Admiral Hakoth's flagship moved to intercept. The massive Vraalkith warship positioned itself between the shuttle and the Ark ship. Its weapons locked on. Captain Minho, Hakoth's voice came through the communication channel. You've made a terrible mistake coming here. This is our world, our heart. We are the Vraalkith Empire, and we do not lose. Minho looked at the enemy flagship on his screen. He thought about Earth burning 60,000 years ago. He thought about the 5 Ark ships that never made it home. He thought about billions of dead humans, whose only crime was existing. You already lost, Minho said quietly. You just don't know it yet. He activated the quantum fold drive. The Eternal Horizon vanished from its position and reappeared directly behind Hakoth's flagship. Before the enemy could react, Minho fired every weapon the Ark ship had, all at once. The concentrated fire overwhelmed the flagship's shields. Systems exploded. Hull plating cracked. The proud warship that had led the Empire's forces for centuries began to die. 5 minutes left. The shuttle docked with the Eternal Horizon. Hana and her team stumbled out, some bleeding, all exhausted. Engineer Do-Yun rushed to help the wounded. Sora collapsed as soon as she was through the airlock, her shoulder badly burned. Get us out of here, Hana gasped into her communicator. Mi, NHO didn't need to be told twice. The quantum fold drive charged up, tearing reality apart. The Eternal Horizon vanished from Keth-Val Prime's orbit. 3 minutes left. Admiral Hakoth dragged himself from the wreckage of his command chair. His ship was dying around him. He activated the emergency communication system and broadcast to every Vraalkith vessel in the system. All ships converge on the Foundry. The humans planted a weapon there. We must stop it from... The singularity bomb detonated. For 3 seconds, a miniature black hole existed in the heart of Kethval Prime's largest weapons foundry. It consumed the foundry, the surrounding military bases, and a crater 10 miles wide. The gravitational forces were so intense that everything within range was compressed into a sphere of matter no larger than a marble. Then the singularity collapsed, leaving behind a perfectly smooth bowl carved into the planet's surface. The explosion was visible from orbit. Every Vraalkith ship saw it. Every citizen on the planet saw it. The Empire's most protected world, their throne world, had been attacked successfully. And the humans had shown mercy by only destroying a military target. The message was clear. Humanity could have destroyed the entire planet. They chose not to. Admiral Hakoth floating in the wreckage of his flagship, watched the destruction through a cracked viewport. He understood then what the humans were. Not conquerors. Not terrorists. They were a reckoning. They were the bill come due for a crime committed 60,000 years ago. He opened a communication channel. Not to his superiors. Not to the Emperor. To the human fleet dot above Earth. The battle was still raging when Admiral Hakoth's transmission reached Admiral Yuna. She listened to his words, her face expressionless. Then she ordered a ceasefire. The Vralkith Empire surrendered 3 days later. The terms were simple. Complete withdrawal from human space. Reparations to be paid over the next 1,000 years. Recognition of humanity's sovereignty and a permanent seat on the Galactic Council. And most importantly, a promise enforced by the threat of singularity weapons that genocide would never be attempted against any species again. Captain Minho stood on Earth, looking up at the stars. It had been a week since the battle. The wounded were recovering. The dead were being honored. And humanity, scattered for 60,000 years, was finally unified. Commander Hannah approached him, her shoulder wrapped in healing bandages. General Minji says the other species in the galaxy are scared of us now. They're calling us extinction's children, the species that survived being killed. Minho smiled slightly. Good. Let them be scared. Let them remember what happens when you try to destroy humanity. Do you think the Empire will honor the peace? Yes, because they finally understand what we are. He looked at her. We're not just survivors, Hannah. We're proof that you can't kill an idea. You can't kill hope. The Vralkith tried to make us extinct. Instead, they made us eternal. In orbit above Earth, the 7 Ark ships floated together. 7 million souls who had crossed the galaxy, who had endured 60,000 years, who had come home to save their species. Around them flew Earth's defensive fleet, and beyond that, new ships were being built. Humanity was expanding again, but this time with purpose and strength. Lieutenant Sora, her arm in a sling, stood on the observation deck of the eternal horizon. She watched Earth below and thought about everything that had brought them to this moment. The long sleep, the scattered fleet, the homecoming, the war. A new officer approached her. Lieutenant, Admiral Yuna wants to see you. Something about a promotion. Sora smiled and turned away from the window. There was work to do. A galaxy to rebuild. A future to create. Humanity had spent 60,000 years preparing for this moment. Now it was time to show the universe what they could really do.